Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Broke Gaijin podcast, the podcast about the journey to financial freedom for both you and the two broke guys who host this podcast. We are here in the wonderful city of Tokyo, Japan. My name is Eddie, and joining me is my friend, my pal, and the guy who is just as broke as I am, Aaron. How are you doing?
Such a lovely introduction every week, Eddie. I really appreciate it.
Well, I gotta keep it fresh, keep it spicy. You know what I mean?
That's it. Keep switching it up. Keep it new. Keep the punters coming in.
Right. Variety is the spice of life, as they say.
Indeed.
So how's your week?
Oh, it's back to work this week. The weekend work is in full swing. Just been trying to keep my head above water, to be honest with you. Mostly been working on this podcast, of course. I'm sure you can relate.
Oh yeah, it's work. I see you like with your head down on the computer like a vast majority of the time, so you're pretty like into it.
Oh yeah, if I'm not working, I'm editing and working on the podcast. That's me. I'm always grinding.
On your grind, on your hustle.
Like, on that Gary V grind.
On that Gary V grind. Props out to Gary V, by the way.
Shout out.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you? How's your week been?
Oh, it's been an okay week. I mean, I'm not gonna let it, like, the beginning of this week was a little, it was a little rough coming back from vacation, from holiday, it was getting back into the grind, getting back into the swing of things. It was
like starting your car on a cold day.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So, but once I started, waking up and picking myself back up a little bit, it's been, I'm having one of those times where, like, I'm not great, but I'm not bad either. I am just okay. Okay is the perfect word to describe my week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's just okay, I suppose.
Yeah, right? So,
right.
I mean, granted, like, it's not as hot anymore,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the temperature's dialed itself back a little bit.
Right. So, yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so anyway, by the way, is there anything in particular that you wanted to mention or bring up? Because I have an article that I just got read and I'd like to discuss just a tiny bit.
Let's just go into it. Let's jump into the article.
All right, awesome. So, this article that I was reading actually earlier this week, it comes from AARP or AARP. I don't really know how that is, but and it is in the money, saving, and investing section. Title of it is "You Just Need a Little Nudge," and the whole article is technically about behavioral economics, and not everything about it, but like a lot of it has to deal with like money, tips on saving money, how to better manage your money. And interesting enough, there has been kind of I wouldn't say trend, that's not the right word for it, but anyway, corporations, businesses, companies, banks, all of that are actually using behavioral economic tactics to get you to make better financial decisions. And one of the things that really stood out to me when I was reading this article, it's pretty much at the top of the article. It says the way they are doing it is through what you call behavioral economics, which is the study. At the root of this is a relatively new science, not new at all, is an understanding that humans are, well, human, not the unemotional decision makers represented in economic textbooks. On the contrary, we often choose immediate rewards over higher future benefits. We take the path of least resistance, typically by going with the status quo or simply doing nothing. And I think that was a really good part to bring into this article, because I think that really, really heavily has to do with what we're going to be talking about this time, which is getting started.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, I personally can relate to that because, I mean, let's be honest, like, who wouldn't want to take the easy route, right?
Oh yeah.
So it goes on talking about specific tactics that corporations have been using, like having like one particular corporation or company has been essentially automatically enrolling workers in a plan that kind of sets aside a part of their pay for retirement, sort of a thing. Some with investments and other words and so forth. If anybody feels like reading the article, you're more than welcome to go in there and read it.
We'll have the links in the show notes.
We will have the links there. And the thing is, a lot of people have, this goes including for myself, have this trouble of just getting started with anything, whatever their idea is. And I really think that one of the reasons why it's kind of hard to get started is because, one, I mean, it's scary. And two, you kind of want to have the best results you can for the least amount of work to put in. You know?
That is essentially the human condition. It's minimum input, maximum output.
Right?
Nothing wrong with that, but that is essentially the human condition.
Right?
And it's actually what we should all strive for, to be honest with you.
And I agree, actually.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just feel like the fact that they put this in the article was like really cool. I mean, it feels like the person who wrote this like really kind of understands human psychology. I don't know. I might just be making that up in my own head. I don't know, but I don't know. What do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, I say the article is very interesting. I believe you said the AARP earlier.
Right.
I think it's the American Association for Retired Persons, I believe.
That's
what it stands for.
Well, I mean, that's probably what it actually stands for.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I've heard them come up in some political talk at times. So essentially, what this looks to be is kind of putting people's investment and future on autopilot almost. So they have to essentially do nothing,
right?
On their end, and they get their retirement,
right,
all squared away for them, which I think is great. You know, if you're a worker and you're working for 40, 50, sometimes 60 years. And I don't know, you didn't know about how to set up a retirement fund or 401k or a Roth IRA, that kind of thing. And, your company does it automatically for you. So at the end of your working career, you've got something to retire on. I actually think that's fantastic. But as you were saying, when it comes to like getting started, it is a big barrier for most people. Maybe they know what they want, but they don't know how to get started. Would you say that's a fair assessment? People would sort of know, okay, I want to get here, but I don't know how to start.
Yeah.
It's one of those big barriers that, I mean, we've all faced. I mean, Eddie and I mean, even starting this podcast was
it was a little, it was kind of a little bit of a rocky start, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. It's still it's still an ongoing process. But talking about that kind of that first step.
Well, actually, yeah. Like, in terms of me taking that first step, I feel like you should, to quote Nike, just do it. This is my assumption, because if you're gonna get started on something, you might as well just, well, I mean, within reason, take the step to just doing it, and then you kind of learn as you go. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of how I've done it. Is just start doing it. Whatever you want to do, just take that first little step. I don't know. you want to start a business. Why don't you search up how to incorporate a business and just do it? If you've got the funds, if you've got the means to, just start doing it, and you'll kind of learn along the way. I think I don't know who coined the phrase, but it's basically massive imperfect action.
Massive imperfect action.
Massive imperfect action. I believe so. Essentially, there's kind of, I think, two main things. I would say two main things that keeps people from getting started and getting on that first step. Number one is the kind of just being overwhelmed by the task ahead of them. Like, I want to start my own business. How do I do that? That's a big task when you think of all the things that go into starting your own business. And I would say the other part of that is just sheer what I would call like perfectionism.
Perfectionism sounds like a killer to me.
It's that I want to do this thing, and maybe you're doing it, but it's like it's got to be perfect before I take it to the next, or I've got to be perfect before I start. Like, I've got to have a perfect business plan before I even do the first thing. I've got to have the perfect product before I start the business around the product. And I think that's if you have that kind of mindset, that will keep you in that perpetual kind of always starting but never actually going anywhere.
I agree. I really do agree, especially in terms of the perfectionism part, because it goes. I feel like, adding on to that, there are a lot of people who, when they're first starting out, compare themselves to what's already there, to professionals who are already doing stuff, to whatever. Like if I'm gonna, oh God, like, I'm drawing a blank here. Like, if I'm going to make a movie because I want to be a director or something like that, then I need this big budget. I have to get all the expensive equipment because that's how Hollywood does it. Or if I'm going to do investing, I have to find the perfect thing for me. I have to get in there and have all of this money to put into some stock so I can make a lot of money, like Warren Buffett or whatever. And the whole fact that I think when you're very first starting out and you are taking that first step, you kind of have to admit to yourself that you're gonna make some mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It's a guarantee.
Yeah, and I feel like those people out there who are taking that perfectionist look at it kind of goes into what you said. Like, you're gonna end up trying to do something and you spend more time trying to get it as perfect as possible, but you're not really progressing. You're just kind of stuck in this stage. I mean, eventually you'll finish, of course, but you just kind of end up getting stuck in this or maybe not, who knows. But you just kind of get stuck in this idea of I need to make it perfect, but it's like, I mean, you're just starting. You're new. You get your foot in the door,
Right. Think about learning anything. Think about starting anything. I'm sure when you're at your job, when you started your job, I know I did. I sucked at my job.
Oh God, I was horrible.
Quite a while, and I just had to learn by doing it. Just by doing it. Just had to get in there, start doing it, learn from experience, learn from people who have been doing it for longer than you have, and just start doing it. So with the example of investing, like, you're not going to get very far if you're comparing yourself to Warren Buffett in that, I must make perfect decisions like even Warren Buffett makes mistakes, but you're sort of like, I've got to get onto Warren Buffett's level before I can even start, before I can even put my first dollar in.
Yeah.
Or yen for us. We put our first yen in. But it's a lot better, and you will find that you start gaining that momentum, as I talked about a few episodes ago about, I love the idea of momentum, and I love that feeling of getting stuff done and moving towards and making progress on something. Just start. I mean, you can learn from Warren Buffett, read his books, check out his investment strategies, look what's in his portfolio. You compare yourself in that way and say, oh, what did he go for versus what did I go for? But in terms of getting started, just start. If you want to start doing stocks, set up your stock account, put some money in, and read some books, see how to trade, and then make your first trade. There is nothing better for learning than actual experience.
I agree. And by the way, everybody out there, initially, I'll be one of the first people to say that I really do not like that way of learning, but I support it.
It's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable,
really,
isn't it?
I hate it so much because it's so frustrating.
It's
really
it's
is.
like it's like someone telling you, okay, I want you to do this thing, but you're gonna fail. How many of us would do something if someone said before we did it, you are going to fail and you are going to make mistakes? A lot of us say, well, I'm not gonna do it then.
Right?
What's the point of that? But that's how people get started. That's how people get things done.
I really agree, and that is the truth. Unfortunately, as much as it pains me to admit that, because I really don't like the whole idea of doing something to fail. But who is it? There's like a quote out there. So he who does not learn from his failure is the fool, something like that.
Oh yeah.
And oh God, but it's you got to do it because otherwise you really don't learn, you don't grow.
Yeah, and I think failure could again be a complete topic on its own. I think we could come back to that and talk ad nauseum about failure and what that means and how to deal with failure in your endeavors.
I feel like that would be a deep one.
Oh yeah, that would be a few parts. I think.
That would be one with a few stories here and there.
Oh yeah, that'll definitely be a few parts. I mean, we've already touched on it in a previous episode. If you want to go back and listen to that, I believe episode 3 or 2 or 3. We were talking about our past failures and applying ourselves. But so just coming back to the idea of first steps, Eddie, I wanted to ask you.
Right.
We can count this as we've taken our first step by virtue of this podcast, if nothing else, on our path to financial freedom. And let me ask you, what preparation did you take to make that first step?
I would say, in terms of the podcast or just in general?
Oh, just in terms of your overall journey towards financial freedom, what prepared you and what got you started on that journey?
What got me started? I would have to say the idea of just being successful, of just being up there. I mean, that just the idea of that alone is motivational to me, inspirational even. The whole thing is just for the longest time, I was kind of like I think we talked about it in the last episode, but I kind of had like a poor man's perspective on it, where I always thought that that's just a dream. My life is what it is, and I'm may or may not get there by sheer luck or whatever it is you may want to call it.
Right.
But I would say education definitely does play a part into it, because it wasn't until I started reading like the books and blogs and listening to the podcasts and all of the good stuff that really got me thinking that I can do that. It is within my power to actually reach those kind of heights, and that's kind of like what drove me. It's what the hardest part about that though was, I think I got into this kind of mode where I just felt like that perfectionist mode, where I felt like I had to learn everything and know everything before I even started.
The perpetual student, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Just I felt like I had to keep doing that. And sometimes I still feel like I do. But I'm getting out of it more And, proof of that is, we started the podcast. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, whether or not, like, this podcast, hopefully it succeeds and hopefully we get to episode 100. Who knows? But whether it gets that far, I mean, I don't know. I can't tell the future. But the important thing was I kind of just took a leap of courage and then actually did it. I mean, here we are. We're talking on the episode,
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of people's stories about how if they are on this journey with us as well, that's how they got started, is reading books that kind of give you the sort of equip you with the tool set that you need, at least mentally, to take that first step and to get moving on this journey towards financial freedom. I would say my story is pretty similar to yours as well. It's always been an aspiration of mine to kind of be financially free, but it was I didn't know how to practically do it until I started reading some of the books that I've been reading. Think and Grow Rich gives you that kind of the mindset of the successful. Even little books like $100 Startup. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. $100 Startup.
I have actually, yes.
It's essentially how to start a business from home or with $100 capital down, which isn't a ton of money these days.
Right.
So, that gives you some ideas, and it says, okay, here we go. Write down this simple business plan. It's not gonna be perfect, but here's this to get started. And with sort of with the internet, you can earn money in hundreds of different ways, thousands of different ways on the internet. Since we're connected from all around the world. If you're listening to this podcast in the UK, you could be listening in the US, you could be Saudi Arabia, who knows? So the internet has allowed us to have a much larger customer base than, people in our local area as it used to be, 40, 50 years ago. So I would say there's more opportunity now to get started, and there's more things we can do now to get started than ever before.
I really couldn't agree with you more on that.
Right.
Yeah, that's...
But on the flip side of that, there's almost too much out there. So it's that kind of double-edged sword of, I've got all these options, great, but I've got all these options. Oh, where do I start? Do I want to do stock investment? Do I want to do options? Do I want to do Forex? Do I want to do real estate? Do I want to do business? Do I want to do affiliate marketing? Do I want to do social media marketing?
Content marketing, all the other
content marketing, email marketing.
Yeah.
28 different kinds of marketing. You want to be creative. Do you want to run a blog? Do you want to run a community? Do you want to, play games on YouTube? Do you want to start a YouTube channel? There's loads and loads of different ways that you can get started. And at least now that is kind of the challenge. It's not what can I do? It's more like what should I not do, and kind of cross that list off until you find something that you think that you would likely succeed at and do well at.
Actually, I'm really glad that you said that. Because I recently watched, and by recently, I mean like last night, I watched a TED Talk on YouTube, and it was, oh God, I can't remember her name for the life of me, but it was this woman who, it was about passion, really. And she was saying that when she was younger, she did like some XM radio thing for JCPenney for a while, and at some point she ended up losing her job. Not because like she was a bad worker or anything, but like, the company had to cut costs and et cetera, and she ended up with no job. And the biggest problem that she had was that she wasn't passionate, or she wasn't motivated to really do anything else, because she didn't know what she wanted to do, because there are so many things to do. And the biggest point of her whole talk was that you don't really know what you want to do until you actually do it. You don't actually become passionate about what you want to do until you actually discover what you want to do by doing it. I thought that was actually really interesting because, I mean, I don't know, that's happened to me quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like...
See, I would... And you're talking about passion in relation to your work and sort of what you're doing, career and stuff like that, right?
Well, it doesn't just have, I mean, you know, apply that to career, but it doesn't just have to be career. It's about anything,
right.
you know?
Yeah. Right. So possibly it would be beneficial to kind of like test the waters and see what you like. But I think regardless of what you choose to do, if you choose to do something, do that one thing. There's a great book. In fact, I gave it to Eddie for his birthday.
He did.
called The One Thing, and it's
the one thing.
And it is just about boiling everything down to the one thing, and the one thing that you need to be doing right now to get to where you want to go. To get the life you want, you need to boil it down to that one thing. What is that one thing that you need to be doing in the moment? And what's that one thing that you're working towards? And what's that one thing you're working on? So for me right now, it's the podcast and making sure everything runs nice and smoothly. But who knows? At another time, it could be another thing. But it's always great to have that focus on that one thing.
I agree. I mean, it's kind of the same thing for me. Like, to be honest, I was actually excited about this. I was thinking about what we were going to talk about, like, since the beginning of the week. I was like, okay, all right, getting started. All right, so what do we talk about? And then lo and behold, the moment that we actually start talking, I forgot everything.
as tends to happen.
As it tends to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, except the article for some reason. I don't know. The mind is a tricky thing.
Oh yeah. We'll try to get a link to that if we can find it. But at the end of the episode, we'll try to get a link to that TED Talk so you guys can watch it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So we do like to make the show notes as comprehensive as possible so you can follow along if you're when you're listening.
By the way, this is just a little thing for me. But if anybody out there wants a little bit of just a little boost of inspiration, a little can of inspiration juice, watch a TED Talk. I don't know about you, but every time I watch a TED Talk, it gets me hyped up. I don't know.
Oh, there you go. We were talking about motivation last episode, and then
that's why. Carrying over. A TED Talk.
That's absolutely why.
A TED Talk might lead you to taking your first step.
Yep. And research, listen.
All of it.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. And then when you're ready, take that first step, no matter what it is. Push yourself out the door. Get going.
Yeah. I mean, we did.
Yep. And now we're here recording episode 4.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I think, unless you've got something else to add.
Let's, no. I think I'm pretty good.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of episode 4 of the Broke Gaijin podcast. Please, if you feel the need to, if you want to add something to the conversation, please send us an email at twobrokegaijin@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. These podcasts are also going out on our YouTube channel, so you can subscribe there to listen to them as well. And just get in contact with us, guys. If you're out there, if you're listening, you've got a story to tell, you've got a story to share, please just let us know, and we'll be happy to share it on the podcast.
Yeah, if any of you out there have experienced anything like, what we were just talking about, like just if you have anything to share about your methods or what it took for you to take the first step to do what you're doing, we really would like to know, to be honest.
And if you disagree, you say, hey, those guys are wrong, they don't know what they're talking about, let us know. Let us know. And we'll be happy to have that conversation on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, that just about wraps it up. And until next time, everybody.